Okay, my friends, it is April 1st, 2025. My name is Darren Gerdes. I'm just a professor trying to provide context in the war in Ukraine. I'm going to show you some astonishing things today. I'm going to show you what the Russians thought that they were going to take in 2023 as opposed to what they actually took by 2024. The map is crazy. I'm going to show you the future of warfare with ground drones. I'm going to show you cats that help Ukrainians stay alive. None of this is made up. I know it's April Fool's, but everything that I show you is legitimate. Okay, 1540 Russians off the battlefield. That brings us up to an average for the month in March. That's probably about the fifth or sixth month of highest casualties in the war. It's not the fourth. It's just slightly below fourth, but I'm not sure if it's fifth or sixth or exactly what. 1540 Russian troops off the battlefield, 9 tanks, 37 armored fighting vehicles, 15 artillery systems, 53 vehicles and fuel tanks day over day. 1,644 Russian artillery systems were destroyed in March alone. And that's really interesting. I'll come back to artillery systems in just a moment. But this is really amazing, what you're about to see here. No drones last night. Russia launched 0 drones at Ukraine. And the question is why? Why are they showing there's no Shaheeds? At night, Russia launched 2 Kh-5969 cruise missiles. Both were shot down near Zaporizhia, but there were no drones. So why? Are they out? I doubt it. It's probably saving up, my guess is, for a bigger, like, tomorrow or the next day, big drone swarm or something along those lines. That's my guess. But, I don't have a crystal ball, or my crystal ball is broken. For the first time in 2025, Russia did not launch massive drone attack overnight. According to Ukraine's Air Force stats, the night of April 1st marked the first this year without a large-scale kamikaze drone assault. However, Russia still struck in Ukraine. Nikopol shelling continued from evening to morning, damaging homes and infrastructure. Again, Russia could launch more drones, and they're probably saving up for a rainy day to have a massive swarm. Now, their capability has gone up significantly. Remember, I told you months ago that they had the ability to produce about 65 a day. Well, Russia could launch about 500 Shaheeds at once by late 2025, warns an aviation expert. At least 3 production lines are already operational, with alternative sites emerging to boost output by the end of the year. So that's going to be creating some significant complications for the Ukrainians if they can't knock these drone production facilities out to limit the number of drones that are going to be attacking every day. The great Russian war machine seems to be almost out of large-barreled artillery, with 122 millimeter now being the vast majority of destroyed daily units. Russia's lost a lot more 122 millimeter light blue this month. So if you look at the chart, what's going on with 122 millimeter? I don't know how to interpret this chart as far as what this means. Are they running out? I don't think they're running out anytime soon, but clearly, they have lost more artillery, I just showed you, in March than other months. Okay, energy truce collapses, 45,000 lose power in Kherson strike. Okay, Russia continues to violate the post-Riyadh agreement and not to strike energy infrastructure. Now, listen, when, you could say, well, they know both parties haven't signed it, but Putin was telling Trump on the phone, oh, I called my drones back, we're not going to do it. So you kind of did commit to that when you said that. So, okay, yeah, they're not going to commit to that. I just don't see that anytime soon. Now, they're talking about a date. They're talking about a date of April 20th as a date. I'm going to talk about that in my 3 big stories segment, I think, tonight. But I just can't see a truce lasting anytime soon. Okay, March 2025, over 4,000 drones, the largest number in any month since February 24th, 2022, attacked Ukraine, inflicting serious damage in multiple regions across the country of Ukraine. So 4,000 drones, it was a high figure almost every day. And so are they out? Maybe, but I don't think that's what it is. I think they're just saving it up for a big blitz. Ukraine's Air Force struck an underground post, considering that this is a rather sophisticated fortification meant for high-profile brass and not for some grunts. It's safe to assume that this is some kind of high-ranking official was inside when the thing blew up. So you see here the image of the, like, just a still image of the aftermath. Here's the before. That's what this was, and again, the after is not pretty. Another image of the same thing. It's in Kherson. A pair of Ukrainian JDAM ER guided bombs fused as bunker busters slammed through the roof of a Russian command bunker, detonating inside. So, yeah, we'll find out more about who was affected by that shortly. Okay, on the battlefield, cross direction, Donetsk region, 56 attacks. Now that seems to be moderately high, and again correlated to the number of 1540. That seems to be right. Like we can just kind of use per cross as a bellwether. What's interesting about that is that it's not just per cross. Like there's fighting in multiple regions here in Belgorod, Belgorod region, Russian Federation. Ukrainian forces control territory from the UA Russian border to Popivka and Demivka. Excuse me. There is a contested zone that extends from the Kursk-Belgorod administrative boundary to the hamlet of Prelisia. Russians have no operational momentum. And you got to think like, okay, so you know that they're across the border, and it's not a large border. Like they're not controlling a lot of real estate here, but they are. But so they are there, and it's a thorn in Russia's flesh. But what's going on? Okay, so here's one piece of the puzzle. Ukrainian drones seem to dominate the area. Today's footage, well, this is 2 days ago footage of aerial battles over Belgorod. Ukrainian drones seem to dominate the area. This came out again just a day or two ago, and yeah, so if the drones are preventing the Russian surveillance drones from being able to function well, if the FPV drones are able to knock them down, knock down the supercams and the Zalas and that sort of thing, well, that helps understand what's going on, or make sense of what's going on. Okay, Russian forces recently advanced in Kursk, Sumy, and nearby Kupiansk, Kharkiv, and Vilka Novosilka. Meanwhile, the Ukrainians were advancing near Toretsk, and they're actually doing some really impressive work in Toretsk, really cutting into the Russian lines in significant ways. Russian troops in Touretsk. This is interesting. Again, this is not April Fool's, but this is the first I heard of this last night. Russian troops in Touretsk were attempting to bypass Ukrainian defenses using underground sewer systems, according to Ukraine's military. With street battles intensifying, occupiers are resorting to tunnel warfare tactics to infiltrate Ukrainian positions. So again, first I've heard of that as well. Russian defense collapsing around Pokrovsk. Okay, this is very limited. I checked it out on the map, on like a bigger map. It's only a little, but they are putting pressure on the Russians around Pokrovsk. It's really fascinating to see just how the momentum seems to have swung in the Ukrainians' favor here. Okay, this is fascinating. The Russian advancement in 2024, marked in red in the first picture, the sources the New York Times, cost Russia at least 125 soldiers and about the same number of injured and disabled. Now, if we look at a map, you're going to see like what you would expect. It's just the peripheral, like if you're listening on Spotify, you won't see this, so I'm going to describe it. Just that area around Pokrovsk and the periphery right around the front line in various places, but it's a very small number. And so we're looking at that chart there. That's what it's talking about in red. This is not counting the injured returning to combat, equipment losses, problems at the oil refineries, complete destruction of the myth of the dreaded red lines after the Kursk region, so on and so forth. Now, in the past year, Russian manpower losses were greater than the total for 2022 and 2023. Okay, and that's when what is marked in pink in the picture was captured. So all of the rest of this area, all these 4 oblasts that have been, like 70% of these 4 oblasts that has been captured, that all that was in pink, that was captured in 2022 and 23. But the losses in red, the slight little bit of losses on the periphery of the pink between Ukraine and the occupied territories, they lost more men just trying to capture this little tiny slow swath of real estate. Now, the picture gets even better here in just a moment. The second picture the sources build was claimed to be Russia's plan for the special military operation, published at the end of 2023. So what they were really trying to do was capture what you see here in this orange area. Now, again, here is, let's look at this. Here's the water down here. Here's the water down here. And here is, so they really wanted to capture this by the end of 2023. That was the plan. Now, they have ambitions probably to go all the way out to, cut off by Kyiv, maybe slice it in half or something along those lines. And that's maximalist objectives. But this was a 2023 plan, and it didn't really work out so well. Okay, again, it's not April Fool's. This was the plan. Okay, Kyiv Post. This is fascinating as well. It's one thing after another. It's blowing my mind today. Ukraine to deploy 15,000 robotic systems to the front lines in 2025. These look like something created by John Deere or something. John Deere marries a tank with a drone as like it's some kind of hybrid Franken thing, but they're working apparently. One of the key systems being deployed is the domestically developed LUT ground robotic complex, tested in combat and approved for military use. The robot is designed for surveillance and fire support. It's equipped with 7.62 millimeter machine gun and sensors that allow it to detect and engage targets in both day and night conditions. The compact robot, which can be transported in a military pickup truck, runs on a quiet electric motor. Well, it's good that it's environmentally friendly, right? A quiet electric motor for extended operational use. It has ground clearance and maneuverability in rough terrain and can function in extreme temperatures. Operators control the systems remotely from a protected location, reducing risk to personnel. This is the future of warfare that you're looking at right here. And I've read that I can't understand it, but I've read that ground drones are going to be even more game-changing to the battlefield than aerial drones. It's hard to imagine, but that's what I've read. Okay, here are some more drones knocking down other drones. This is just taking out some big Russian surveillance drones, and yeah, with FPV drones. I never tire of watching that. Okay. Trump, let's turn our attention to how the Russians are looking at what Trump is doing and why he's doing it. This is really interesting as well. Like, today is just fascinating.
Well, this morning's Russian papers focus on Donald Trump's apparent frustration with Moscow. Kommersant's headline is a play on words from the gambling phrase double or quits. In Russian, pan ili propal. Here, it's Trump ili propal, Donald or quits. A series of big statements by the White House chief, who said he is very angry at Vladimir Putin's idea for external governance in Ukraine and who threatens secondary sanctions on Russian oil if peace moves are too slow.
Yeah, so Trump is seeing through some of this, what Russia is trying to do here, this external governments thing. That's not a thing. Tammy Bruce came out at the State Department saying, look, they have they're constitutionally elected. Maybe I'll show you that later on. They're constitutionally elected. This is not a thing because Trump wants to make a deal. He's seeing that Putin does not want to make a deal, and he's kind of upset about that.
Are his strongest attacks on Moscow since his return to the White House. The headline in Moskovsky Komsomolets, Trump in a temper. The US president threatens Russia with unprecedented sanctions, but the paper thinks he's bluffing. The threat of secondary sanctions is very serious, of course, but you must ask yourself why the previous US administration didn't impose them. Was it because Biden, unlike Trump, was a decent human being who didn't go overboard? Of course not.
Isn't that interesting language that they're, lobbing toward Trump now? And when I see that, I think, okay, that's a good sign. When I see them saying Trump is the greatest, I think, okay, that's not a good sign, because if the Russians are thinking that, that's not okay.
No. It's just that the Biden administration knew very well that removing Russian oil from the market would raise the oil price by 10 to 15%.
And that's fair enough. They did understand that, and they were very cautious about the idea of Ukraine destroying Russian oil.
American voters would have to fill their cars with expensive petrol from this expensive oil, while Ukraine was somewhere over there in Europe.
It's not bad reasoning. Like, I mean, the Russians are actually getting that.
A man in a temper, especially an American president, is capable of many dumb things, but not of damaging his own country. The fact that Trump is in a temper, it's all part of the script. He's the president of the world, the supreme judge, whatever that may mean.
What? It's interesting how they look at Trump or how they perceive Trump.
In Komsomolskaya Pravda, political scientist Dmitry Simes worries that people around Donald Trump will turn him against Russia. Many people in his entourage are former neocons, like Secretary of State Marco Rubio.
Right. And these are the conservatives that should know better and should be like, hey, you know, when did Russia become the good guys?
That's what they call people in the US who want their country to achieve absolute military supremacy over all rivals.
Well, I mean, that's not exactly how they would define themselves, but supremacy over authoritarians who would want to undermine the international order like they are, sure.
Neocons were always aggressive towards Russia.
And that is very fair. Neocons have always had the posture that now liberals have taken, which is just, it's mind-blowing.
Now, these individuals are loyal to Trump, but it can't be ruled out that under pressure from American globalists and the European Union, they will try to turn the president against Russia.
Or if they can find their principles again and return to what they've always believed. Okay, I'm going to stop there with that assessment by Rosenberg and looking at the Russian news. Just a couple other things. China has launched joint Army, Navy, and rocket force drills around Taiwan, calling it a stern warning to the separatists. Taiwan's president was slammed as a parasite by Beijing. Again, this is not April Fool's. This is what's happening today. Taiwan responded by sending its warships. Chinese Navy is already near the coast. Tensions are heating up fast. This is more than saber rattling. And again, if something pops off there, the whole world changes. Happy Tuesday, everyone. Let's make it a productive day. We see some Ukrainian soldiers. And then finally, again, it's April Fool's, but I'm not making this up. Cats are being used as early warning sensors for when a bomb's going to come in. There are 17 cats in the Quick Death Strike Zone Company of the Kharkiv Border Detachment. They are the most sensitive sensors. As soon as the enemy launches a KAB bomb, the cats disappear into the dugouts with lightning speed. So they just watch the cats. If you see the cats running into the dugout, run too. When the KAB flies, the cats all together run here through every hole like water. That's right. So you just have to see it. One day a KAB was flying. It takes 15 seconds to get here. It was just enough to run inside. 5 seconds later, there was an explosion. So we have a lot of cats. I bet they do. They used to have 11. They now have 17. Well, there you are. And they're pulling their weight as military support, and they're good to calm them as well. All right, my friends, that's all that I have. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the likes, the shares, and the subscribes. And thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.